Yeah,
Okay.
we haven't moved. We're still in the same place.
Oh, okay. And with that, guys, welcome. Fight Commentary Chats, aka Fight Commentary Breakdowns. Jeff Phillips, the second time here, aka Western Combatives, aka one of the co-organizers of our legendary Ultimate Self-Defense Championship. So yeah, Jeff, welcome and tell us how is everything? How is life? How is our Jeff Phillips?
Yeah, not too bad. So going well.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, we haven't had to move out of our premises, which is great. I'm not sure how much longer we're there. We're definitely there till the end of the year. And then there's potential that we could extend. And so that's a really, real positive.
Okay.
In terms of myself, I've just been offered a really big contract, government contract, teaching self-defense. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sort of going through the ins and outs of that. But aside from that, yeah, everything's flowing. Western Combatives still going from strength to strength, and things are good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And if you guys hear typing, it's because I'm just filling out the description. That's the one thing about Zoom, which is the first time we're interviewing on Zoom, that you can't fill out a description, unfortunately. So I'm just going to fill out the description. But so, Jeff, season 2 of Ultimate Self Defense Championship has wrapped. What's the plan now for season 3, if you're able to reveal anything
Yeah,
yet?
that's a good question. So
Mm-hmm.
we want to wait and see how season 2 is received.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few things that we need to sort of square out and fix up and things like that, obviously, before we go ahead. And yeah, like I'm all in on it. I know Rokas has had, some unfortunate incidences occurring for him recently.
Yeah.
So, I'm just not putting any pressure on him. I'm giving him a distance, keeping a distance from him so he can recover and, not add to any of the stress and things of what he's going through. So
Yeah.
potentially, yeah, like there's a lot of options. Like I've done a few things that are out here in terms of corporate self-defense that have opened up quite a few doors for me.
Mm-hmm.
And some may have a really profound impact on season 3. I've just got been granted access to some other locations that are pretty damn good. I'm not going to give too
Wow.
much about it, but just through what I do with work and things like that, there's some good things on the horizon that if it's all systems go, then yeah, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give anything away, but let's just say, yeah, there's some big things in store if and when it goes ahead.
Okay. Since we have you, and last time, we left certain things unsaid about season 1. Is there anything about season 1 of Ultimate Self Defense Championship that you want to talk about before we talk more about season 2 or self defense or
Um,
other things?
yeah, I just the thing that sort of disappointed me, I guess, after all was said and done, is all the online commentary from people that have no idea. You haven't been in those rooms, you haven't seen things, and people are jumping to all these conclusions. That was a little bit frustrating for mine, and being the fall guy for that, you're like, oh, I don't care, I got thick skin, but it just became a little bit frustrating. So I guess what I learned was there's a few things that I want to do a little bit. I wanted to do a bit differently, and we did this time. Was number
Mm-hmm.
one, I think screening of participants has to be more stringent. There was a participant who wasn't physically nor mentally capable of performing the tasks that were required, and had we screened them a little bit more intensely, we would have discovered that pretty early on in the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Aside from that, I guess too, like just believe in people's online personas. People put themselves on these self-appointed pedestals, and make themselves out to be something that they're potentially not. I've never fallen for that in the past. Prior to season 1, I didn't know the competitors. I had to go and Google the majority of them, and just reading between the lines. If someone says that they're an MMA fighter, perhaps go and check their record to see if they're a competent MMA fighter. Things like that. So a little bit more stringent research, I guess, on who we're bringing out. I guess I'd change that, and don't believe the hype of what people, the picture they paint of themselves, because it's quite often untrue, and it's quite often very different to what they were like in real life. So there was that. The other thing people have been jumping up and down on me for is safety. Now, I want to say that in season 1, nobody got hurt during season 1, in spite of claims. Nobody got hurt. I have evidence to support this, through and through. It wasn't run like people are like, oh, you're there to hurt people, whatever. No, not at all. That was ridiculous. All the safety implications. For example, the bridge created a bit of controversy. Now, the thing about the bridge, if people are sitting at home watching it going, oh no, someone's going to get hurt, I've done my job, because that bridge is totally safe. In 20 seconds, I dare say I would pay someone $1,000 to see if they could throw me off that bridge in 20 seconds. It's not going to happen. And also factor in that the majority of the participants were of sound mind and body. They're not going to throw each other over. You rely on that to some extent. And the one that wasn't that way probably couldn't throw anyone over. So the all safety issues and things that people spoke about, non-existent. It was done really safely. Like I said, I've done this for like 15, 16 years, and you can count on one hand the amount of times people got injured. Sure, people got black eyes, bloody noses, but that kind of thing. So, all those criticisms that were geared towards it were probably wrong. They're probably fueled by people that had ulterior motives. But aside from that, it was good. And season 2 was just bigger and better. Like season 2, there's just so many things about it that, in my opinion, were better. It started out, we sort of labeled it the cursed season because so many things went wrong. For example, Rokas getting COVID, and he was isolated for pretty much all of it. Like he just came out for the last couple of days. So there was that. There was just, another example is we're driving to the seminar and my car just went up in smoke started coming out of my car. Everyone had to evacuate. We thought it was going to explode. There was just so many little things like that just kept popping up to make us go, wow, this thing's sort of cursed. But when everyone sees the final product, like the fights and all those things, just on another level. Like it was just, we took on board some of the things, that we could do to improve it. We made some changes. We made certain events a bit easier for participants. We geared it that way. And, it's always changing. It's an organic process where we're always adding to it and improving and things like that. And again, for season 3, like there's some other things that we would do differently as well. And it's just every time we do it, it's just getting better and better and better. And it was really enjoyable. Season 2 was great. It was great.
Cool. I'm going to try something with my mic settings. Let me know if anything's different. Do you hear me better or worse? Or
pretty much the same.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just keep this on then, because I realized something wasn't turned on with my mic that sometimes makes me sound better. But if it sounds the same to you, then hopefully it just encodes better online.
Yeah.
But so, okay, I mean, yeah, the thing I want to definitely add on / emphasize is that Captain Phillips, aka Jeff Phillips, has been doing this for decades, okay? It's not like, yeah, there it is.
Got the shirt on.
It's not, I love it. It's not like they put this together just for ultimate self-defense. This was an existing thing, and this is something we emphasized in the first interview we did. There's something existing. If you look at Jeff's channel, which of course, I'm glad you're getting more subscribers now. If you look at Jeff's channel, he's got videos from years ago of him doing the same exact stuff, the bus bash and everything. So
yeah,
it's not like they put together something unsafe together just to film a YouTube show. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, 15 years of trial and error. Like those events are pretty much my gradings. If you people complete my dynamic knife module where people are trying to stab them, the shank tank is your assessment. And if you get in the shank tank and you don't survive 50% of the time, you fail the assessment, back to the drawing board, that's pretty much how it is. Like we've been doing this for a long time. That's what people just think we've changed it on the spot or we thought of it. That's not true at all. Like we've been doing it for a long time. The only thing that has changed is perhaps the scoring and things like that. But the general crux of it remains the same. It's funny because, there's people that offer suggestions and things, which is cool, but I guarantee you, if you've thought of it, we've done it. I had one guy messaging saying, you should do some things in water. Why don't you go to the beach and fight in the water and things like that? And it's like, well, yeah, that's good in theory, I guess, depending on where you live and what you're trying to replicate. But as soon as you hit the sand and beaches, all that equipment that you use, protective equipment, is destroyed. You can't use it anymore. We've done that before. You can't get sand out. If it gets wet, it's just no good. You have to
Especially with seawater, man. You know,
yeah,
that's not regular water. That's seawater. It destroys everything.
yeah. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like I was at the beach one day at near where we filmed it at Wollongong, and there was a Krav Maga place training right in front of me. Of all things, I sat there with my family, and they decided to do these drills. And it was kind of funny. Like I wished I'd filmed it. I didn't have my camera on me. I left it on my phone on me. I left it in the car. But the instructor had really long hair and a beard, and he's holding people by the throat under the water, and they're trying to fight out of it. And I just thought it just looked like, you know, the guy looked like Jesus, and he looked like he was trying to baptize them. And I wanted to have a cat trying to fight off a baptism. And I'm just sitting
Yeah.
there thinking, like, I was watching it, and it's good for something different, something novel. But realistically, is it something you would use? Probably not, but yeah.
I will say, Jeff, it's funny you mentioned fighting on the beach because just the other day, remember I promised Jeff that I log like self-defense situations that happen because they happen all the time, right? But like I fell off on that spreadsheet that I shared with Jeff, by the way. So for those who wonder what happened to that spreadsheet, but 2 days or 3 days ago, a homeless person attacked 3 ladies on the beach, and he or she, I don't know, was even pulling one by the hair and like putting her into the water.
Yeah,
So
well,
like it happens. So yeah,
yeah.
it's like it happens. But what Jeff is saying, and I think this is what I'm saying. So maybe this is not what Jeff's saying, but I'm sure you agree with me on this. If by the time you get to where your head's in the water in the beach, you've already done something wrong because the homeless person had to drag the person down the sand into the beach, right? So like the self-defense should have happened before. This should have been happened during the whole. So if you're like being plunged into the water, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's the thing too, like there are very obscure events such as that do happen, but how often do they happen? And do we really want to cater for the things that happen, 0.5% of the time, or do we want to put the things in that happen, 50+% of the time? That's the way sort of my training works as well. We look at the things that occur the most, and that's what we deal with. That's what we spend the majority of our time. We can always invent some weird and wonderful drills. I've seen plenty online where people have bricks and they're doing defense against a brick and stuff like that. And it's like, it gives off that hardcore connotation, but are you really trying to hit the person with the brick? You're not. So you're better off using like a foam brick and actually try and hit the person with it, and it also for safety as well. Just works better. Like
if you train, let's say the situations that 80% of people get into, they naturally will apply to the 20% of situations that are rare, right? Basic stuff. Okay, keep your distance, watch where his hands are, watch where your feet are, like things like that. You can apply that on the beach. Years ago, homeless guy tried to do something on the beach. I kept distance very well. And then a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I was Santa Monica just try to bring people back to the promenade, have these chess sets now, like this big, like very big chess sets that you can play, right? So I play chess a lot, but every time you get harassed by homeless people. So, if a homeless people's giving me stuff, just the same, you apply the same thing. Okay, versus how, what are our stances? How far am I from him? What's his hands doing? Et cetera, right? So it's like it's better to learn that than to be like, okay, like let's learn the beach situation. Oh, let's learn what if he grabs a chess piece and attacks me.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where, like, if you look at it, say the brick example again, that action is the same action that someone would use to swing a bat, possibly a knife, possibly, and you have to cut corners. You can't, cover every single little thing. You need a concept that covers a lot of things. Otherwise, you're not going to devote enough training to it or get competent enough at it. So it's pretty simple, really. Like, even if you look at real fights and what happens in real fights, it's only a small number of things. It's not this big, wide array of things that people like to preach, but it's just a few small things. And if you get good at that, that's half the battle. There's a few things that everyone should know. So,
So, tell me about Western Combatives, its evolution. I mean, we heard there's something you might reveal maybe in a future video about, this cool contract you got, but have you added any more drills or any situations, since we're talking about situations and drills?
Yeah, well, like before we do any events for the USDC, we've tested them out. We test them out several times, and the thing is, like, myself and some of my instructors, we just throw ideas out, or where these ideas come from, who knows? They just pop out. And so we've made an effort to change some things up and alter things around. And there's always different ways. And we're fortunate. Like, my business model is we have I don't want to say a small toolbox, because that's probably not doing it a justice. We have a moderate sized toolbox, but the beauty is being able to apply that in different circumstances, different settings. And we're fortunate that our campus, I have the keys to the university campus, which allows us to access to amphitheaters and classrooms and offices. And we just do it all in those sort of settings. So my business model is, the toolbox, it's all well and good, you can do it, but your ability to apply it in different settings, that's where the art lies. Can you get this stuff to work on a bus? Can you get it to work on a slippery floor? We've done things where we've put detergent on the floor and made it slippery and things like that. You just mess around with the environment, the lighting, the factors. You can always make it multiple attackers with a weapon. It could be ground, the choices are endless. You just have to be creative about how you go about it. And since the filming of USDC, number 2, a lot of the guys from the gym have had an interest in competing in combat sports. So we've sort of done a lot of training down that path, and a couple of guys have, jumped in and had some kickboxing fights and things like that. And so, it's kind of, it goes in circles. It's funny the way the business has run from day one, where the dollars sort of lead me and where I go. For a time I was only doing corporate things, because that would pay the bills and that was my focus. And then the classes managed to, take over, and, I was getting 30 odd in a class. So then I neglected that side. And so it just kind of, it drifts. And it's not up to me where it goes. I just kind of steer the ship and hope for the best.
Yeah. How much can we talk about USDC season 2?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
I'm going to do my best not to give spoilers, but
okay.
yeah.
First of all, for everyone watching, you can go on Patreon, Ruckus's Patreon. You can watch the season. You can watch a few episodes already, right?
Yeah, I think he's released 4 so far.
Okay, so you can watch 4 episodes on Patreon if you guys really want. So if that's definitely there. And then, of course, the full thing's coming out in September, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that first. The second thing is, of course, the cast, so to speak, of this second season is much more interesting, right? We got the Ranton guy who trained in Shaolin. We got a jiu-jitsu purist, and then we have another MMA guy besides Jeff Chan, who's the returning champion. We have we got karate nerd Jesse Enkamp, right? So you guys really found personalities. I mean, first season had personalities, but second season, you really varied it up.
Yeah, it's very different. And that was one of the discussions that Rokas and I had. If I watch a boxing fight, I'm watching the best boxers, whereas the general public tend to watch Jake Paul, who in the grand scheme of the world, in the boxing world, is nowhere in comparison to a lot of, say, for example, Japanese fighter at the moment who's pound best. His career earnings is something like, $5 or $10 million. Jake Paul, who is couldn't even carry his gym bag, has made so much more money than him. And so that's where I was all about, let's get the best fighters in, let's get this. And Rokas is we need personalities. And I think at the end of the day, Rokas is kind of right because that's what people want to watch. Jake, like we said, Jake Paul makes more money than the top boxers. However, my focus was on the action. I want to see good fight scenes. I want to see good things set up. I want to see good exchanges. I want to see good testing of techniques, testing of individuals, things like that. So that's where my focus kind of went. But the thing that happened in this season that I was unaware of, because we're a little bit, I guess, we're thinking that we're nervous that without Seth and Mike and their, banter and things like that, that it's not going to be as entertaining. But from what I've seen so far of the 4 episodes, it absolutely is, because there's a bit of a rivalry going on. So without giving too much away, Natan Levy, who's the current UFC fighter, and Jordan does jiu-jitsu. Jordan teaches jiu-jitsu, whatever his name is. them two at the start, and no disrespect to Jeff Chan, I think he should be in the mix, and he did really well as well. Like everyone there had a shot. I'll be honest, everyone had a shot. But they were sort of made out to be the two favorites by consensus. So it wasn't Rokus or my doing. It just kind of happened. And so Natan started trying to plant seeds in Jordan's head to make him a little bit doubtful and scared of him. So he kind of, that banter, which wasn't friendly like Mike and Seth's, was a bit more strategic. I really liked it. I thought it was great. I thought, like, you can watch it unfold. I had no idea it was going on until I was interviewed at the end, because like it was going on sort of behind closed doors and at the fighter house. Like they had their own house this time.
Yeah.
So I didn't see all this unfolding. And then when I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, this is good. Like this bench is really good. Yeah. And then also you factor in Craig. So he's the guy, the regular guy. He's hilarious. You know, everyone's going to love him. He's going to be a crowd favorite. And just his mannerisms and things like that is just funny. Like,
cool. And Craig's one of your students, right?
Yeah. So Craig's story is he was always very talented, but he loves a beer and he loves to drink too much. Like he got to the point where he was drinking quite a bit each night. So he'd get home from work. Like he's currently a truck driver. He was, I think, a builder of some description. And he would go home from work, have a couple of beers, and he'd never make it to training. So he'd show up once every couple of weeks, and he did that for a long time, for years. I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years. Like he was our kids class instructor for a time there as well. And to his credit, like Kev, the basketballer, broke his foot a week out, and then we're sitting there like in panic mode. And then I'm going through like Facebook, looking at friends and people that I know that could fill the role well. And then it occurred to me, I was like, shit, Craig. And so I gave him a call and he's like, you're not setting me up here, are you? Just to look like an idiot in front of people. I'm like, mate, if I didn't think you were capable, I would not ask you. And the more I sort of entertained the idea in my head, the more I thought, this is great. And he did. I'm not going to say how well he did or anything like that, but he was great for the show. He's going to be a crowd favorite. I can see it already.
I can see. I mean, just in general, the perception of how Aussies are, right? Like I feel like he's going to represent how we think of Aussies, and that's great. That's great. And the other thing is, I also appreciate the fact that last season you had Matt, who was part of your crew. So it's like every season you get someone who has your training to kind of see, Matt's like the ultimate everyday guy too. Craig sounds like he's a bigger everyday guy. So like Craig is for like the big former football players, whereas Matt was like for people like me.
Yeah. Like, cause Matt weighed around 70 odd kilos. The problem is like those two guys that represented my gym, both of them hadn't trained in over a year. So I'd like to get someone fresh in that's currently training. But the thing about Craig is I knew he was a different animal when I was, the final fights, how we have those Bruce Lee gloves. When I was tying up the gloves, I could not tie it up because his forearm was that big.
Wow.
So I really had to, and then I thought, okay, now I'm starting to understand why he goes as well as he does, like he's a big, strong dude. And the funny thing was, I'm pretty sure it's going to make it to the final cut. Is Craig actually? So Friday was the day of the final fight. Saturday, the day after, when we were doing the seminars, Craig had his first boxing fight.
Wow!
And so the thing about Craig, he signed up for I don't know if they do it where you are, where they get groups of people who want to experience fighting or whatever, and they'll get 2 groups and then they train them independently. So they'll train them for 3 months or something. And then they have this big night where they fight. And this fight night was huge because I left the seminar, drove there to film it. So hopefully it does make the cut. And there was thousands of people there. And so pretty much the 2 of them signed up for it, I think 3 months before, Craig and his opponent. They were supposed to have training every single day, leading up to the event. Craig never showed up. I think he showed up 3 times, he said, in 3 months, and jumped in the ring with 3 days training, like 3 days boxing training with that particular group. He was out of shape. He was drinking beer the day before it. like every day. He probably had a beer before he went in there, as far as I know. Don't know. And on top of that, like he did the final fights the day before, so he had to mix it up with everyone. You know, he had to do a round with every single other fighter there, and so he was going into it a bit bruised up. You know, and to his credit, you know, he just, you know, there's no quitting in him, there's no fear in him. He just jumped in and did it, and yeah, hats off to him. Like it was awesome. He saved the show. Yeah.
Well, in some ways, right, some people would say that the day before fighting all those people prepared them even better for the boxing match. Some people, that's just how their minds work. It's like, oh, I already fought all these people. I'm not afraid of a pure boxer anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what he said. He goes, oh, I had to mix it up with, you know, Jeff Chen, Natan Levy, and, you know, those guys. He goes, so this guy that I'm fighting is nothing in comparison. So he was cool, calm, collected. I went and watched the fight. I was watching him warm up and all that. And yeah, he did well. I'm not going to say how he went in the fight either. Hopefully that will make the final cut. I'm sure it will. If not, I'll put it out there. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to find the Patreon page for our man Rook. So if anyone's curious, they can, when they watch this later, they can check it out. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's so much great stuff to look out for season 2. And seriously, guys, everyone watching, whether now or later, go watch it on Patreon. It as well.
Yeah, and we went to a lot of effort. So the donations and things that people made allowed us to spend more money. And I don't want to give too much away. You could probably work it out by watching the preview. Is like I did a building up to look like a bar, so a pub. So I went and bought like a pool table. I went and bought, you know, we had a DJ there. We had, you know, really went to the next level. I went and bought those bottles that you can smash over people's heads and that for added, you know, props and things like that.
Yeah.
We went to a lot of effort. You know, it was funny leading up to the event. I was just driving all around the countryside trying to find all these things, bring it back, getting a truck, bringing a pool table in, setting it up, cleaning. There was a lot of behind the scenes work that, you know, goes a little bit unnoticed, but it was like I had my old gym. So my old gym was in that big building where Hide and Go Stab was, but then they've moved me to the current one. So my old room, I made it look like a pub. So I went above and beyond. But then I got in trouble for it. What? So then I was told that somebody wants to rent that room, get all your stuff out. You got 3 days to get it out. And I had it posters on the wall. Like it looked like a pub. So I had to go in and I had to do it myself too. 3 days straight till like, I don't know, 10 p.m. just cleaning it out. And they're like, get all your stuff out of here. So I had to sort of hide it all so no one would see it. And then the day before that actual event, I jumped out and set it up in another area really quickly. And so there was a lot of stuff like that kind of went on that, you know, sort of goes unnoticed. Like the weeks leading up to it was very stressful for me, as was the event. Just making sure every, you know, T was crossed and I was dotted just to make sure that it was quality.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. I mean, I so want to ask more, but it's like I also want to give people some anticipation. So I guess maybe I'll give you the mic. Like, what's one more cool detail you can reveal that might get people excited? So no spoilers, but something really excited.
Without going to any of the new events, we did alter the events a little bit. So the Shank Tank, we put a more solid obstacle in the way for one of the attacks. We also gave them like a briefcase to defend themselves, or a backpack to defend themselves with, things like that. In the Hide and Go Stab, I hid a lot of items around the building. So if it had our sponsor, SMAI, their logo on it, you could pick it up and use it. So I went around and I put like even things like a tie pad, I'd drop it there, or a focus pad or something like that you could use. You know, I got this one massive kick shield that's really tall. It's like it literally is like a shield. I put that out there and I thought, if someone finds that, they're going to win. You know, it's pretty easy to win. No one found it, unfortunately. But yeah, I went out, like we sort of put things everywhere. So I got, they have these training bow staffs and things like that are sort of like solid in the middle and foam on the outside. So I would get like a broom handle and screw it on the end, or a mop handle. So I'd put like those kind of things around. So if they saw it and it had the logo, they could pick up a mop or a broom and use it. But the funny thing was, not too many people actually utilize that stuff. So, so we changed the events that way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We changed the bus event. Yeah, and I'm not giving away anything because I'm just thinking what's in the ad for it, the preview.
Mm-hmm.
So we did just a little, I guess, the same events with a couple of new ones with a little twist on them. And little twists were to enable them to have more of a chance of success and things like that as well. So to give them more of an opportunity to win, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because you sort of answered the question, which is how did they know that it's a prop they can use and it has the logo on it? So that was genius. I like that. And from what you described, it seems like, unfortunately, when people are under a lot of stress and the tunnel vision hits, they usually don't think outside the box too much, right? And I think we're going to see that when the episode comes out.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments where I guess people don't do what their martial arts training has made them do because they're in that moment. Like it's very interesting, like some of the things that appear. This time, I think more so than season one, primarily because season one, I think when they fought each other, they didn't go all out. They didn't go as hard, whereas this time they did. And so this time is more of a true representation of self-defense than season one because they were kind of, they weren't coming out like a bull out of a gate, whereas this time they did. And everyone showed something. Like I was impressed by absolutely everyone. Jesse Enkamp is like a weapon. You see him, his videos and things, and just think, karate nerd, whatever. He's a strong, fit, explosive guy. Like he's quite good. Ranton as well. Like when we did the seminars, like each participant does a seminar, public seminar at the end. He's blew me away how athletic he is. Like he's amazingly athletic and strong and fast, and everyone had good moments. Like it was pretty cool actually. I was really happy for them, and I hope one of the other things I like people to benefit from this is they get more, I guess, opportunities. Like Jeff's getting more opportunities to teach around the world, and his YouTube channel's gotten bigger, and that's what I want them to get out of it as well. Like things like that, and I think they will this time. There are a few moments that I'm pretty sure are going to go viral. Like there's a couple of viral moments where a couple of attackers got sent to hospital. I'll say that.
Whoa!
But apparently you can't hurt them. But yeah, two of them ended up going to hospital. What else? Yeah, it was on another level. It was cool.
Wow. Woo. Okay. Yeah. A lot to look forward to. I mean, you're doing awesome on your channel, by the way, to put behind the scenes, and you listen to my tips too. You put USDC. I just noticed that. You listen to my tip. Yeah. And remember to put it in the tags too. I don't know if you tag your videos, but every variation, I'm giving Jeff a free class on this. Every variation of USDC. So like Ultimate Self DC, Ultimate Self-Defense Championship, and then also have another tag that's Ultimate Self-Defense Championships. Like every variation, because you want people who are searching for it to be able to find the video.
Yeah. And especially if they make mistakes, like with their spelling and things like that.
Yep.
That's how I get majority of my equipment off Facebook Marketplace. People will write gym gear, but they'll spell it JIM. So the majority of the population.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm like, bang, got him.
And then depends on if you're American or you're from the Commonwealth, but people spell defense differently too.
Yeah, with an S and C. We spell
exactly.
So
So I'm so excited for the behind the scenes. In fact, let me test something. Let's see if I'm able to share my screen even though I'm live streaming, because I want to show people this. For those of you who don't know Jeff's channel, let's see if I'm. Oh, here. Let's see. Okay. I don't think it's possible to share. Like, as you can tell, Zoom's ad is so much stuff. Like all this AI stuff that I don't want to use. Oh, here, I found it. So guys, I hope you guys can see this. But you see, this is, look at all the cool stuff that Jeff is uploading, see all this behind the scenes stuff. So Jeff has another one that I'm really excited about, the bus bash behind the scenes. So yeah, there's a lot of. So my question for you, Jeff, is how many more of these behind the scenes are you going to release? Is it? I hope the answer is like 100 more.
There potentially is. So I've just been going
Okay.
through what I have on my hard drive. So it serves as a purpose twofold. Number one, cleaning out my hard drive, and number two, there's some pretty interesting stuff like what you see and what actually happened. I'm not saying they're two different things because they're not, but there is a bit of a difference. I'm trying to think of a politically correct way to say it. So the image portrayed for some people and how they really were are worlds apart. That's all I'm going to say,
Yeah.
and I've got better things to do than sit there and try and discredit people. I'm actually disappointed in some people that I was so hospitable to, that would turn around and behave in the manner that they have. So I'm not going to give them any airtime or anything like that. But yeah, there's so much there, and if I could put out some stuff that I'm holding back. Like, it's funny, people are like, "Oh, you're salty about this, salty about that." I'm holding back so much stuff that would totally change people's narrative of everything, and I just sit back and let people fall on their own sword if they want to do that. But I'm going to release a lot more, I hope. What I've got on my hard drive, like some of it's interesting, some of it not so much, but I know people just like to see the interactions and things like that. So I'll just
Totally.
put them out there. Anything I think might be remotely interesting to people. Like, I want to do like a collab thing, not a collab, like a video where I've got the deaths of everyone in the zombie sort of thing. So from different angles and things, because or even the fights, I'd like to show the fights in their entireties, because in the actual shows, like, they're little snippets, but because people are criticizing, judging and things like that, you weren't there. You didn't see the entire thing.
Yeah.
Like the one that comes up commonly is the Jeff versus Mike in the hall. Now, a person who assisted judging, who apparently can't see in this area, was down a hallway, which is exactly the same, standing behind people, yet they had a better insight to it than me standing right there and it's happening at my feet. So if I can find those videos and put them out, and people will see what the truth is. People don't understand that the biggest hit in that fight was Jeff's head hitting the wall. Jeff hit the wall very hard. If he didn't have a helmet on, game changer. And people don't know that. But you know what? Let them go. They can say what they want. I don't care.
Yeah. 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 Just I hope not just titling, but make sure to give as much details in the description. I'm sure Rokas has told you about this, but I want your behind the scenes to reach a lot of people. That's why I'm like really, really trying to get you to like almost be a YouTuber, like really think about the description and then the
Yeah.
tags and everything. Because I want this stuff to be seen. Like, I was so glad when you started releasing that stuff, and I've been looking forward to season 2, and I saw these behind the scenes, and with my wrist, I was just like, oh, this is the perfect thing for me to watch. So I hope more people who are excited about this series get recommended your stuff.
Yeah, I'll keep putting it out as much as I
Yeah.
find it, because there's links and things I've got everywhere, and clouds and whatever that I got to go through people's
Yeah.
phones and things that they've sent me. I'll put it out there because, yeah, like, if I watch a fight, I want to watch the whole fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
that's what I like, not the snippets. And I know the reasoning behind the snippets, and it's the right thing to do. But it'd also be good to release each one individual fight in its
Yeah.
entirety, like,
Yeah.
and from different camera angles. Like,
Yes,
you
from
see,
different camera angles. People like me would watch every single one of them. I guarantee you.
yeah, yeah, and it's sort of like I said before, people are sitting at home with one small snippet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to like seeing it in its entirety, seeing it from angles, seeing what happens, and just knowing, like, being in the environment, you just see so much more. So much more. So
Yeah.
I just want to, put those out there and see what people think, and also just to whet their appetite a little bit, so that when season 2 comes up, they're all ready and raring to go and want to watch it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, just one of the videos that did really well on my channel a few months ago, I showed another angle of a classic Kung Fu versus MMA fight. And people loved it,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you feel the power of certain punches from different angle differently.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny because you look at different angles, and I've seen this over the years. Like I've sat there and we do the final fights. We've done that for a long time. We call it King of the West. We would do it where, depending on the location, we choose all the different fights. We have our own little in-house tournament, and whoever won, we used to give them like a machete which said King of the West. That was their trophy and whatnot. It was kind of cool. And you'd watch the fights, and it's not the same when you see it in real life as it is on camera. Like I stopped a couple of fights in the past, and then I've watched it on video going, why did I stop that? Like there was one where there's a couple that sort of stand out where there was one guy, it was actually Matt, hit this guy, and I saw his eyes roll in his head like he was out on his feet. So I jumped in to stop the fight. And then you watch the video later and you're like, that didn't look so bad. But in the moment it looks worse. And also, like, I'm trying to protect my guys as best I can.
Yeah.
There's been several like that where there was one guy, one of my guys, he reminds me a lot of Mike. Like he's similar size to Mike. He's an ex-cop, all the rest of it. He fought this big like Islander guy. And this Islander guy threw him into the wall. Like he crashed into this brick wall and landed in the seated position. Then he ran up and did a soccer ball kick at the guy.
Oof.
And I blew the whistle. I'm like I thought he was hurt. But then when I watched the video, you see he blocks the kick. He's not in any danger. Well, he's in danger, but nothing significant happened.
Yeah.
And I kind of regretted, being a bit early on the trigger in fights like that. So it's kind of tough. When you're there, it's a different ball game than watching it on video or watching it on film.
Yeah.
Like,
and
sounds, all those things.
what Jeff has just explained is the exact reason why eyewitness testimony is not reliable. This is like a very interesting kind of is like tie-in, but like eyewitness testimony always is taken with a grain of salt in court because they know these things. Like Jeff just explained it perfectly. Like on the ground at the time, he felt like it was a certain way, but then he looked at the footage later. He's like, oh, it wasn't that. So
Yeah.
I'm also explaining this because sometimes, especially with some of the things that were said about season one, with certain eyewitness claiming certain things, you always have to take those things with a grain of salt, especially if a lot of other people, said other things. Just that's my last tie-in with that little controversy.
Yeah. Like that's it. Like, and you got to look at people's motives. Like, my motives were questioned. If I'm honest, in season one, I'll be honest, I was hoping Matt would win. Matt's my guy. I've known Matt for a long time. I was in his bridal party at his wedding. How am I not going to go? You know what I mean? But I was impartial because the thing on the shirts is our motto is truth through combat, and I didn't want to give him a leg up. I didn't want to give him a helping hand because then I'm a liar. I'm unethical. So I sort of let that play out, and there was a lot of controversy. People saying, "Oh, this guy, he has a bias towards combat sports," and I'm thinking, like, really? Like, you obviously have no idea about who I am or what I've done and what I currently do. They've never done one of my classes. If I was to describe like parts of our classes, it's dirty MMA. I sort of teach it now because we have so many people that want to fight. I go, okay, this is what we're sort of dealing with. Now, if your goal is MMA, these are your options. If your goal is self-defense, these are your options. But it's all very similar and all ties in together. And I mean, there are some things I disagree with that people say, like, for example, people say, I heard someone say, oh, the best fighter will win. That's not the case. We've seen plenty of times when bad fighters have beaten up high-level fighters. BJ Penn got knocked out not long ago by some drunken pub dude. You know what I mean?
I remember that a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different kettle of fish. Like, it is a different dynamic, and people keep denying it. Like, I kind of sit somewhere in the middle. I definitely believe in combat sports and boxing. I'm a massive advocate of boxing and fan of kickboxing, all the rest of it. So I sit somewhere in between on all that. But yeah, those narratives that people try to paint and put on other people, like, just look at what people's motives are, and the person who came out, I guess, being the most negative towards it, It's just because they performed so poorly that they're looking for someone to blame. No personal accountability, as is the case with most neurodivergent people. They do the same thing. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um. So since we're talking about behind the scenes, can you give us a teaser of some of the behind the scenes stuff that you're most excited to release?
Oh,
Because
like
this is not really related to season 2, right? So we can sort of give more
yeah.
spoilers about season
Well,
1 teaser stuff.
I can give one that I think I can give it. It's not giving
Uh-huh.
anything away, but in season 2, I have a guy, Alex. Now, Alex was the guy that hit Seth a little bit too hard.
I
And yeah,
remember Seth was like, "Oh my god," he's like, "Oh my god, what am I doing here?" He said that on
yeah,
camera. I remember that. Yeah.
yeah. And Alex he's a tough guy, and in season 2 in the Shank Tank, like he's a massive Nathan Levy fan. Like he's got some kind of connection there. And he ended up actually buying, like we auctioned off their uniforms and that afterwards, and he ended up paying an enormous amount of money to get it all the Natan stuff. And so when he had to go in the Shank Tank with Natan, I'm just sitting there. My jaw dropped because he stood there and he's going, if you can knock me out, knock me out. He's going, let's fucking go. Do your worst, And he's standing there going, come on, Natan, show us what you got. And he's just trash. Like it appeared to be trash talk. Like it would appear to be trash talk. And I could see Natan's face. He wasn't happy. So I'm sort of in the middle of it watching this thing unfold, and I'm like thinking, Alex, do you have a death wish? Like, I'm looking at him going, you're a madman. And also, like, I don't want to upset the competitors. Like, I want them to enjoy the experience. And I'm watching him, and he's standing there going, woo, let's go. Come on, knock me out. Let's go, let's go. And just for about 30 seconds was nonstop, like trash talking him. And right before their little exchange in the Shank Tank, and I'm sitting there, I'm looking at Natan. I could see he wasn't impressed, and I'm looking at Alex, thinking, "What are you doing?" And it was a really cool moment. Like I just thought the balls on Alex to do that. And then at the end, once it finished, I'm not going to give any detail, but they hugged it out, and Alex kind of got him back on side and was like, it wasn't any sign of disrespect or anything. Like Alex, his motives are he wanted the series to look like on another level, the next level. So like he was behind the scenes, he was trying to do what he could to make it as best as possible. Like he was even offering. He's like, oh, I'll give you some money to do. If money's the problem, here's some money. I'll give you some money so we can make this next level and stuff like that. And it's really cool. He's a really cool guy, and it's great having him on board. But that was my moment. Like Alex did some cool stuff. Like like the attackers don't get enough credit. That's one thing there. These anonymous people that go out there and put their bodies on the line. Like I said, like one actually physically went to hospital. The other one had a paramedic. Like one of my friends is a paramedic. He came and sat in there and took care of the guy and monitored him. And he said, like, basically, if he starts peeing blood, then we got to take him to hospital. So we watched him. So two of them got seriously hurt. And that's the thing, like, they're the unsung heroes, they're the ones that are going in there and stepping up to the plate. Like, I know there were definitely people in season 1 who did not want to fight, and in season 2 perhaps as well. But I had 17-year-old kids that stepped up to the plate 4 or 5 times and took on UFC fighters and
Wow.
UFC fighters and stuff. And they just jumped up, and, they deserve a little bit more credit than they got, I think. And I was actually going to do a video like, like a sitcom, American sitcom, how the intro, they're all sitting around the table and it zooms in and the name comes up with the music playing, like in Family Matters or shows like that. I wanted to do a video where I did that and I highlighted all the attackers just so they got a bit of airtime, because without them, the show isn't what it is. And like they mean everything to it. Like their personalities amongst themselves, they're really cool guys and they bring things to the table. And yeah, I can't say enough about them.
Mm-hmm. One of the behind the scenes for season 1 that I'm really excited to see, if you have any footage, is that episode with the ladies like causing stuff. Like that episode so interests me. And we talked a little bit about that last time we talked, but like especially the second one, the I don't even know if I can say this word, but the S harassment from the
Yeah, yeah,
lady to the man,
yep,
that's not covered enough. And like, you know, I've been a man who's dealt with that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like that episode was so personal to me. And I actually need to still cover that episode because I like didn't feel like I was ready to cover that episode yet, but like I really want to see some behind the scenes to that, to see how season 1 you guys put that on, why you guys chose to cover that, because that is so important. That's so
yeah,
a lot of men, they don't know what to do in situations like that, man.
yeah,
And it's a good role model for kids because you know men usually go through puberty later than women, so there is like 2 years in school where the women's usually bigger. Some women are bigger than men. So
yeah,
like
yeah,
it,
sure.
it can so happen. Like kids need to watch this and know how to deal with this situation.
Yeah, well, the whole thing about what I do in this industry is I try and educate people.
Yeah.
And there's all the stock standard scenarios that you can do. And that's what everyone was expecting. But, I'm thinking in terms of holistic self-defense and things. And I was thinking, what are some other things that people may deal with? And that was like an obvious one for me was, flip it. And I thought it would be entertaining. And MJ's great. Like she's just perfect for that job. And speaking of big girls, she's about 6'1" or something. She's
Wow.
very tall girl as well. And I thought she'd be perfect for it because that's her personality. She's funny like that. She's like one of the guys. She cracks those kinds of jokes and stuff. She's super cool. And yeah, it was more about that. Like I wanted people to learn something from it because you do your stock standard. Like I guess in season 2, some of it was a little bit stock standard, setting it up in a bar and there's the obvious fights that could happen and whatnot, and to me, we tried to put a little bit of that into the bar scenes and things like that as well. But do people learn from that? It's more of a spectacle. I wanted that educational perspective, and that's why I did that. I thought
Yeah.
I'd throw that in to make people think. It also catered to another audience, a larger audience, as opposed to the crash and bash fight people.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, it's people don't know how to navigate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the
And
guys. It's funny. One of my attackers, we put him through that beforehand. He did not know what to do. And he's actually been in situations like that at work where there's like an old lady that's constantly saying inappropriate things to him and he just kind of ignores it. And this was sort of targeting people like that and also flipping it as well so that people get an understanding of what women deal with like consistently. Every women's course I run, there's people that have been treated that way. There's people that have some sleazy guy that sits next to them on the bus and puts their hand on their leg, or there's a lot of that out there. And I was thinking of a way to do it because that's one of the other suggestions is doing a women's only one, which, yeah, I think has some legs, definitely. The problem with that is, well, there's a few problems, but number one, like the attackers are a bit hesitant to attack a woman. So it has to be changed. But having said that, they can be more, I guess, tasks like that one. So more
yes.
that are more common to women, things they would find themselves in where they don't necessarily have to fight. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, you're going to be fighting in it, but it's another way to put that in because just to alert people to some of the stuff that we do as guys, it's terrible. Like I
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
now. I was oblivious to it when I was younger.
Yeah.
But
I
now I
mean,
see it
me too.
unfold.
I'm just seeing it because I hang out at a coffee shop right near where I live. And so I used to only get my coffee and at most I'll sit in there for an hour. Now I
Yeah,
study chess in the coffee shop. So I'm in there sometimes for 3 hours. And, you know, there's some attractive ladies there and I see what they deal with. I'm like, wow, okay. Like
yeah,
one of the girls, because she's maybe, she's like 19. So now her new thing, because, you know, in the state, in California, it's like you really can't do anything with people who are below 18, right?
yeah,
So now her new thing is if someone says something approaches, she's like, I'm 17, by the way. Hey, be careful what you say. And that
yeah,
usually tells guys to
yeah.
like
That's
stop.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
100%.
like, but like the fact that she had to come up with that because
It's
it was
terrible.
most guys my age know the distance, but like it's usually the older men, at least in this coffee shop, who like because they feel like they got nothing to lose. You know, they've lived a life already. They can get away with certain things, and people might treat them a little different because they're older. Like these men in their 60s, 70s will say very inappropriate things to these ladies, and I'm
Yeah,
like, whoa.
yeah. You just even have to watch people walking down the street, and you'll see like a father with his daughter, and you just watch the other guys around ogling their daughter in a disrespectful manner, and I just think, wow, we should hold ourselves to a higher esteem than that. We should be better than that. Like, it's going to be really hard. Like, I've got a daughter that's 10 when she gets older, and if I see that sort of unfold, um, I'm not sure how I'm going to respond. Like, it's not cool. Like, people should be able to do what they want to do without that fear of harassment and things like that. And like you said, people that work at different places, get harassed all the time. Like, there's certain professions where, man, they just cop it constantly all day long, and it's sad. It's sad that we as a society have to do what we need to do to try and combat that, because we should just be better. We should be better. I'd never do that. I would never sit there going, some walks past. Like, it's demeaning to yourself as well. Like,
yeah, because it shows you can't get anything. If you're getting something, that you have a girl next to you, your girlfriend, right? Yeah. So that's a funny way of explaining it. It is demeaning to yourself. I never thought about it like that, but yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny. On that same note, I went to Hooters once, and I was the same. Like, I remember 3 friends and I. It's a funny story. We went there, and the girl who was serving us, the waitress, she'd brush up against your arm and do things like that. And I'd be sitting there thinking, I know what you're doing. You're
just get a tip.
Playing this up to get a tip, and I actually had the opposite effect on me. I was just kind of like, I was offended. You think I'm that stupid that you brushed your arm against me? That she like, you know what I mean? Like, things like that. And it was funny. In the end, I just felt that bad that, young and dumb, my friends and I decided to skip without paying. We did a runner back when we were young and silly, and that's a funny story unto itself. Because after I jumped off this balcony and landed on the ground, I was laughing so much that I just laid there for about 5 minutes. I couldn't move. So if anyone wanted to catch me, they could. But I'm on the ground laughing because one of my friends ran off in the distance, terrified, myself and my other friend. Because as we jumped, one of my friends kicked a beer schooner glass off the table, and it shattered, and everyone looked at us as we're jumping over. So everyone saw it. And just in that moment, the two of us were on the ground laughing. We could not get out of there. And my other friend, who was panicking, sprinted down there, and we were laughing at him. And it was a funny thing, but same thing. That whole, I don't know, I couldn't hand over my money because I just felt like a loser being there, number one. And number two, thinking that, I'm going to pay more and leave a big tip just because you brushed your arm up against me or smiled at me. Like, come on. Like, I was
but any behind the scenes you have for season 1 of that, I would love to see, because again, it's good education for people. And dude, it's amazing. And I talked to you about this last time we talked, but it's amazing how many guys have experienced situations like that. We just don't talk about it. We're supposed to man up, or even we're supposed to enjoy it. But like, it's like it happens way more to guys than people think. And like, guys need to know, okay, first of all, how do you recognize it? Because even some of the contestants of season 1 didn't recognize it. Even Ruckus, I think, didn't recognize it, right?
It took him a little while. Yeah, he was guarding himself and had his pen ready. Yeah, like, it is. Like, a lot of people are oblivious to it. I know I was when I was young, and now as I've gotten older and become a parent and things like that, like, you see it. It's so much more clear, and like I said, we got to be better. We got to be better as men and do things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got other ones, like even there was one where Mike was talking, and he was talking about how he was rolled and stuff like that. Like, even things like that was cool, how he was saying about how, I've done this a million times in the gym, but I couldn't do it here when I actually was required to. And they're learning points, they're teaching points for people to sit there and, take some really good things away from.
Yeah. In fact, another BTS, if you have it for season 1, is if Mike could talk a little bit about, because, he was sort of like, he was a police officer for a little bit, right? So like, you would think some of his training might apply for the hide and go stab. So that one, Mike's, any behind the scenes with him reflecting if he talked about police stuff. And then the zombie stuff, he took too much flack because he was applying his police stuff, and then their team didn't really survive. So if there's any behind the scenes, like way more of him talking about that, I think that would be really enlightening too.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Their group took so long to get through it because they were so well coordinated and discussing, and he's coaching them as they went. So the other group just went bang straight through the event. Those guys, like, the night drew on, and that's why in season 2, I'm not sure how the zombie's going to look, to be honest, in season 2, because what I did was like that dragged on a lot because of the way they sort of went about things. Like it was a late night. There were people sitting there. I think we finished like close to midnight or something like that. So this time around, we had everyone in a group together, and I was in it as well. Because and the problem with that was it was too easy to kill everyone because there was so many of us. We also had an antidote, I can say that. So if anyone got bitten, there was like 3 antidotes to bring them back. So it made it too easy. But we did do a twist. My only issue with Zombie in season 2, it was more scripted, I think, the way it was done, because we were killing them too easy. You know, there was like 6 or 7 of us running through as a group, just killing everyone, and it was simple. And there was a lot more zombies too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I took it as an opportunity. I was getting the glass bottles. I went and stashed them up, and I'm just walking around cracking people on the heads with the glass bottles just because it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah, exactly. So, Rook has created an IMDb page for Ultimate Self Defense Championship. Now, have you guys potentially been in talks? Just thinking ahead. Have you guys ever thought about getting other investment or getting other companies on board? Maybe for season 4, maybe, or something like that?
Yeah, we did have some interest. Mm-hmm. I think because there was a very large streaming service that I had to write out a plan of how we could make this more than one season, how we could make it continuing and sustainable. So we did that. I have a feeling, and I could be totally wrong, that they're waiting for season 2 to come out to see how it's different, to see how we've changed it. Mm-hmm. And perhaps something may happen after that. Makes sense. I mean, you look at some of the shows on Netflix, like that Physical 100, the USDC's leagues better than that.
Yeah.
It's so much more entertaining than a lot of the shows that you watch. Yeah. So I think we're deserving of something. And if we had a big budget, the sky's the limit. Like, there's so many things we could do. So many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I asked is because, Mr. Beast, right? He freaking is filming an Amazon show right now. So, I don't know how much Amazon gave him the budget, but I remember he announced this. I don't remember when. I think it was in February. But so, I know everyone wants quality entertainment, especially stuff that can be replicated in different seasons. And, I just think about what show has been going on for a very long time? Survivor, right? I would rather watch Ultimate Self-Defense Championship over Survivor. Not to say Survivor isn't entertaining, but I feel like Ultimate Self-Defense Championship just hits something more in me.
Yeah, I like the educational perspective of it.
Yes.
I think it teaches a lot of people. It also, the thing about it that why I got into it was to test techniques, number one, to test styles and systems, and to test individuals, to see if they are what they claim to be, kind of thing. And that's what I like about it, the educational perspective, and people can learn a lot from it. Like, there's a lot you can take from it if you sit there objectively, leave your I guess aspersions at the door, which is hard for a lot of people. Oh, if there was a karate guy in that, he would have won. Forget about that and just look at, release yourself from all those styles or systems that you're chained to, and just watch it for what it is and see how you can learn. And that's what sort of annoyed me too, was one thing that irritated me was the shank tank, where instead of looking at it going, wow, knife defense is really difficult, people are sitting there going, oh, if you stab someone, the knife wouldn't come out that cleanly, so you wouldn't land 47 stabbed in that 20 seconds, you'd land about 27. Who cares? Like, really, what are we going to do? There's no way to replicate that. We're doing as best we can. You're missing the point, pardon the pun.
You're missing
the point is you're missing out on the education in there because you're pedantic about some stupid, I don't know, if someone stabbed you and it hit their rib, that knife would get stuck and they wouldn't be able to continue. Whatever.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Wing Chun folks who don't know how to throw a jab, but they'll write me a long essay in the comment section about how to do the bong sao correctly.
Yeah,
It's the same exact pedanticness. It's like, why don't you just take the lesson for what it is and not try to over justify or over analyze or over whatever extrapolate?
yeah, yeah. People like, there's a lot of literal people, and there's a lot of people that, I don't know, they're just trolls sitting there waiting for something to have a go at, like, and if that's who you are, then I feel sorry for you. If that's what your life involves, staring at that screen, watching for that moment, like some of the hate that I've gotten from it, like, I can sit in a room and argue with you, and I can give you rationale of why what you're saying is incorrect and why what I've done is correct, but it's not going to change people's opinions. you
Yeah.
know there's video evidence of people performing really badly and people still think that the sun shines out that person's ass. Like, what more evidence do you need? Wake up, people.
Yeah. So I guess the last question I have for you is like, what's next for Jeff Phillips? Obviously your school is the lease seems to be a little bit longer than we thought last time we interviewed. Eventually, you're gonna move schools. What else is next for you? You got that corporate thing. Like, yeah, what else is next for you?
Yeah, like, I'm in two minds about, like, I'm at some crossroads right now, some
Yeah.
very, very big crossroads for my future, because I think whatever I decide to do now, I'm turning 50 next month. Um, Time's running out, of my working life. Um, I'm trying to work out, like, one thing that makes my gym great and better than most is the location helps. If we lose that location, does that change things? Also, so I'm in two minds about, once we're out of this place, where to go, if to go anywhere at all. This might be the time to shut up shop. One thing people don't understand about running a gym is it's a big commitment. I'm out almost every night of the week, and I'd like to come home and do things with my family and spend more time at home. That's one of the biggest regrets I have is, when my son was young, I was just establishing the gym, and I was out pretty much every night of the week getting that done, whereas I should have been at home helping, raise him and do all those things. So that's one of the biggest regrets in my life. So there's that's hanging over my head. Do I continue? If I continue, where? Is it suitable? I will always be doing something. So, like I said, this corporate gig is like really big, and it's for as long as I want it to be. You know, it's really good, but then again, it has to be right as well. Like, I don't want to commit myself to that, and then perhaps it's less money, or perhaps it takes it out of me too much. Like, I'm one of those people that don't live to work. I work to live. And
Yeah.
if it takes over
Yeah.
my life too much, then perhaps I won't do it. But there's that. Yeah, I really don't know, because like my other job, my day job as well, like, takes me to some really good places. I teach fitness courses, and I teach people how to run classes and various other things. So, like, I train the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
This past weekend, I spent the weekend at our police academy, training up police officers. Um,
Wow.
Last week I was in prisons, training like both inmates and people that work there. It allows me to do a lot of things. It's good in that respect. But I just got my head's spinning at the moment. I'm trying to work out. I've written lists, and if I do this, this will happen, and I'm just trying to piece it all together. So realistically, yeah, I don't know. And then I get a lot of work as well during the daytime now. I've got a lot of like one-on-one clients and things like that I work with. So honestly, I don't know. Don't know what's next.
Well, I guess we'll follow you along in your journey, and we'll
Yes.
keep interviewing because I'm at a crossroads too right now. So
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense. So yeah, we'll continue following each other's journey. So,
Yeah, that
but
sounds
one
good.
thing, Jeff, please keep releasing the BTS, and please tag the videos. Take advantage of the 500 characters tag.
Yep.
Like I was showing you when you were talking, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
doing
yeah.
it
I saw
for
it.
this
Yeah,
talk. Just follow that lead, and then You can add hashtags now in the description too. So whatever hashtags are relevant, add those too. I picture you, Jeff. I picture you one day being like, not full time like Ruckus and I, but being able to have a following on YouTube and really being able to spread some good knowledge and make some money from it.
Yeah, it would be good. It would be easier than running a facility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but again, like my content and things is very educational based. You know, I one thing that sort of differs me from some other people is I don't want to sit there and put a clip. Like, I'm not saying this is you or Rokus or anyone, but you know, other people. I don't want to put like a clickbaity title and carry on like a clown, just to get likes. You know, I want to keep it educational, and hopefully there's a swing. Like that's one of my things. There's a swing from people wanting personalities and people that do dumb shit to people that can offer you something that you can learn from. Um, you know, like I've started that podcast. I don't know if you've seen, just with Mick Coop, and the stuff we talk about is sort of, you know, next level. It's not, oh, look at this technique, it's stupid. You know, it's kind of thinking critically and that kind of stuff. So just to, yeah, take it to another place, because we've put a lot of time and effort and work into this industry. You know, it's not simple of just doing a drill or holding a pad. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. You know,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, it's not just slap it together. It's a whole process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, either way, even just I would love to know more about how your dojo runs. Like, I know you have a lot of videos, but I would encourage you to upload even more of those. Like, just show how your dojo runs, how you put it together all these 15 years. Like,
Yeah,
again, don't just trust what I say, obviously, right? Because the average viewer is not like me. But like for me, who's interested in martial arts and self-defense and stuff like that, there's so much about your life that, and just the behind the scenes, that I think would really get a lot of views, especially if you just work within the YouTube system and just tag and write a big description. You know, you don't have to be clickbaity, but you know, there's a reason that stuff works. It's like just the
yeah,
title has to describe and like explain what we're looking at, right? And
yeah,
you've learned you put USDC when it's like relevant. So like you're getting there. I mean,
yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to encourage you because like your channel has 3,000 subscribers. By the way, congrats, 3,000 subscribers. But man, your channel should have like 30,000 at least, man.
yeah. That'd be nice, but you know, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
find the stuff I talk about. Um, I guess you look at the world today, and you know, it's all TikTok, 30 seconds, capture imagination. That's not my style. That's where I struggle, and that's cool. Like, I'm not gonna play the fool just to get likes. I'll
Yeah.
keep doing it the way I do it, and yeah.
Yeah.
And if it
Yeah.
takes off, it takes off. If it doesn't, you know, so be it. You know, we'll see.
Yeah. Exactly. So you have two kids, three kids. How many kids do you
Two
have?
kids, two.
Do they
Yeah.
both train in martial arts? And I might have asked you that last
Mm,
time.
no, my son doesn't. He's
Mm-hmm.
19, so
Mm-hmm.
he's the one I neglected when I opened the gym. 19, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that long ago that I started. He's
Mm-hmm.
a high-level basketball player, so he's now
Oh.
about to go to the States to embark on, you know, studying over there and a scholarship to play basketball.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we're sort of mulling over a number of offers. He's had about 12 offers from different schools, so we're just sort of working that out at the moment. We pretty much have to make a decision by I guess the end of this week or next. And then I've got a
Wow.
10-year-old daughter who she does training, and she's very aggressive. Like she's very stubborn, and she wouldn't hesitate if someone did something wrong to her. Like, I have to hold her back because she'll fight. You know, she's tough.
Wow.
Um, and they're two very different people, two very different individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like she trains. She'd be good if she wanted to, but she just kind of enjoys the class and doesn't. You know, she does one a week kind of thing. So it's enough for her to learn something. But hopefully it sort of catches on, and it'd be cool if she could be my little apprentice.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like potentially you have Jeff Phillips Jr. in training.
Yeah,
So I guess we can bring it back full circle because since you know we talked a little bit earlier about some of these situations that you know people get into that ultimately are a little bit like harassment like, right? And you know I mentioned that the coffee shop near me, some of those girls sometimes just get like inappropriate comments thrown at them from
Yeah.
especially, men that could be your father. So,
Yeah.
I mentioned one of them came up with a really good thing. It's like, hey, I'm 17, yo, be careful, right? That was a good, and you also agree that was a pretty good. What's something else she could do? I mean, another thing I'll just tell you, she told the manager, right? So not the manager, the owner. She told the owner, and the owner might have said something. So like, obviously, those are two good skills. Like, what else could they do?
Yeah. I mean, people can give off, I guess, vibes about whether they're not inviting, but they're friendly in that, you can see a pretty girl standing in the corner and no one will approach her because of the look on her face. She looks unapproachable. So there's little things like that, I think they need to nip things in the bud. So as soon as something is inappropriate, bang, just shut it down. A good example of that is a friend of mine's wife, like a number of years ago when she was a lot younger, she was a property manager. So that meant she would show people, she would have to actually go to people's houses who were renting off their particular real estate agent. And she would do the inspections. And she copped a lot of flack. She went to this one house one time, she said, and the guy opened the door with just a towel around her. And she turned around and she shut the door and she yelled back in through him, was like, go in and get dressed. How dare you open the door looking that way? Like totally tore shreds off this guy. And then he went and, changed his tune. Now, I think had she not done that, that would have escalated. That was him. I call it fishing. He's cast out the bait just to see how she takes it. And if she didn't shut him down, he probably would have taken it a step further and a step further. But because she jumped in and was like, told him she's not having it, bang, straight away, he was appropriate from that point on. He went and got changed. So little things like that, like, not allowing things to go through, not giving those mixed messages, because some guys are stupid. Some guys, a girl can blatantly tell them they're not interested and it doesn't sink in,
Yeah.
So don't give them anything that can make them think that way if you're not interested in them.
I love it. I love that tip. And, that time when I was studying chess and I heard her tell some guy, hey, I'm 17, you better tread carefully. That was good, right? So it looks like she picked up on that principle. It's like, hey, if I'm not interested and you say one thing that makes me uncomfortable, you better know, and you better not do it again. Like, that seems like the right approach.
Yeah, because had she smiled or just giggled or whatever, I guarantee you there's a follow-up inappropriate message coming. And they'll get worse and get worse until they've, flat out proposition them or something,
Yeah.
It's the way it works,
Yeah, it is. And I think back on, back in the day, I worked in a co-working space and, I had female coworkers, and there was this person he was probably actually your age. So not like your father's age, but your age. And he had the office next to us, and he would always try to talk to the girls in my office. And they didn't say anything. They were more like, okay, he's like my father's age. I should just like tolerate it. And then it got worse to the point one time, like one of them was taking a nap and he opened the door to tell her to wake up. It's like,
yeah,
it's none of your fucking business. What are you doing? And like, I actually had to not just talk to him, but I had to talk to the management of the co-working space. I'm like, okay, this, but like, it shouldn't have gone to the point. I like what you said. Again, not right. We're being careful not to victim blame her. We're just giving helpful suggestions for future better management of the situation. But like, if the first time it made her uncomfortable, she could have even said something to me because I was her manager, but she could have just been like, hey, I don't know you, or go away or something like that. I'm not comfortable with you. She could have done that, but it's just like, sometimes people, they think, one, it'll go away, or two, they feel like, okay, it's just a one-time thing. Right? It's just,
and people, particularly women, don't like to upset people. Did I say that right? Like they like to be polite. I was speaking to a lady about sexual assault, and we were going through, if the only thing you've got, you can rake the eyes. I couldn't do that. I don't want to hurt them. I'm like, are you serious? Like, they're trying to do this to you, and you can't do that back. So a lot of people inherently don't want to hurt people or upset people. The other example that's kind of funny that, when I work with Safe, one of the things that they did was like an elevator scene where you walk in the elevator, and if there's guys standing there that make you feel uncomfortable, just to leave the elevator or something like that. You'd be surprised how many people just go straight in. And we saw it. Like, we were in, I think it was like close to midnight. It wasn't too late, but we were in Darling Harbour in Sydney. There was like 6 of us in a who teach that in this elevator. we're in this car park, kind of deserted. This girl walks in, and you could see the look on her face. She was like, "Oh shit," but she still got in. All she had to do was go, "Oh, is this going up? Oh, sorry, I'm going down. Sorry." That's it, done. You know, but she didn't want to upset us, and she stood there, and we're all looking at each other, going, you know, that's
Yeah.
not a good situation.
And what I love what Jeff just said is you can still not upset people, but do it in a way that protects yourself. Like what Jeff just said, she could have said, "Oh, this is going up. Oh, I thought it was going down." Boom! You didn't upset anyone, and you protected yourself. I love, like, this is why life is so interesting, especially as you get older. You start thinking about nuanced ways to deal with situations. It's not just fight or flight all the time, right? Like I love it. This is why it's interesting. It's so fun to talk to Jeff. Like especially I study chess so much. So much of chess is like that. It's like it's not just, oh, I attack with my queen immediately. It's like, how do I plan? It's like it's the same thing. Like what we're thinking about self-defense issues is the same thing. It's like, okay, well, how do you, because if you look scared and you're like, you don't get in, maybe you look like a victim too, right? So like they might come out of the elevator. So it's like, how do you make it like, oh, okay, all right, you guys going down, I'm going up. I love that.
Yeah. And there's lots of things like that out there that you see. There's people don't use them that much these days. There was the old ATM one that went around this industry. I'm not sure who came up with it, but there was a guy that said he went to the ATM, and while he was waiting and he's taking his money out, some guy walked in with a hoodie on, sort of hiding his identity. And so what he did, like, he knew the guy had sort of ulterior motives. So he hit cancel, and then he swore, and he's like, "That bitch, she's taken all my money." And then he punched the ATM, took his card and walked out. And he said the guy sort of backed off. And that's smart. You're telling the person you have no money. You're angry. You're very prepared to fight in that moment. And so they, sometimes things like that, they're really good means of dealing with it instead of having to go down the path of fighting. So
yeah, exactly.
Into it.
That's so funny. It's like there's ways of indicating certain emotions, certain states without being directly confrontational. I think that's what I'm learning from you.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because people who know me will say, "Oh, this isn't you. You're the guy that's always angry and ready to punch on," which, if there's a level of respect that I'll tolerate. I should take heed of that stuff a little bit more. But there's other ways around it. There's other ways to get things done. And that whole loss of face, that was one thing growing up, that if anyone ever challenged me to a fight, regardless of who it was, how many, I'd always say yes, because loss of face, like I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I'd be looking at a coward if I didn't. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that, there's tactical withdrawal, which is a viable solution to many, many issues and things like that. And to be honest, like, at this stage in my life, I'm that over conflict and things like that. I'm trying to avoid it as best I can. Like, I've been through too much of that. It's draining now. It's unnecessary. It's something that I don't need anymore.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that's been punched in the face knows, hey, you might enjoy it in the moment if you're one of those who likes to fight, but there's eventually going to be a point you're not going to enjoy it. Maybe like it does some lasting damage on you or something. There's going to be a point where and both you and I have lived long enough where it's like, we know it's not just, even if you, 1 or 2 punches, you kind of enjoy it, like that does lasting effects years down the line.
Yeah, exactly. Like, look at your hand now, like if you got that from hitting someone, if you could turn back the clock and not hit someone and have your hand in working condition, would you do it? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got this from just being a good neighbor, and I still regret being a good neighbor. So imagine if I did bad things with it, I would regret it for life.
Yeah, that's it. 100%.
Yeah. Tactical withdrawal, man. That's such an important thing. And especially as people start trying to live their lives again, since the whole COVID situation's over in most places, right? It just, people are trying to, it's like all this socializing that we forgot was so complex. We're all starting to like remember that again. And then the more I try to go out into this world, especially last year, I was getting all this anxiety and stuff, right? It's like now I'm thinking about it from a new lens, because I'm a little bit more anxious than I ever was before. So now I'm like, I'm able to empathize and sympathize with people that I've never been able to sympathize with.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. It's funny how it changes. Like COVID did change that a lot. I'm the same. I like when we were at the police academy, all the recruits and things came up, and the students, and they're all like, "Oh, let's all go to the pub. We've got a bus. You coming?" I was in bed at 7:30. I'd much rather sit in there. It was freezing where it's at, but watching Netflix warm in my bed, I much prefer that these days.
Yeah.
Like, just the thought of going out to me is just such a big effort. I'm not keen on it. Thanks,
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, I think we have a lot more to talk about, and let's definitely schedule one for September when
Yep.
the season 2 comes out. But if you want to talk before then, feel free to. If some of your behind the scenes might upset more people, I'm sure we could do another talk. But I think hopefully some of the smoke has blown over. Nobody's going to be talking smack or anything, but we never know.
And you can't argue with what's on video. Like, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's the key. And that's why I hope you release 50, 100, even 500 videos. I don't want to put pressure on you. Sorry, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, I should say that like the video is enough evidence for most people. Some people still deny it. Some people are still in disbelief of what's staring you in the face. Some people can't. I don't understand. But anyway.
Yeah. My final question is, so our man, the Craig Hunter, the truck driver, student of yours, regular guy, quote unquote, is his boxing match that he went to, did someone upload it to YouTube? Like, I obviously you filmed it, but is the official match available anywhere?
It's not there yet. So what I'm hoping happens is, after our conclusion of the event, maybe there's a little, but wait, there's more, and then it shows his fight or part of his fight, just so that people can see, like, what he went through leading up to it and then the actual fight. And it just magnifies how big it was for him to do what he did. It just makes it so much more impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
worst case scenario, I'll put it out there. I'll put it out
exactly.
there. Yeah.
So yeah, worst case scenario, after September, we'll see his boxing match.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I'm thinking from a YouTuber angle, truck driver tries boxing. Like, that's just good content right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, cool. So guys, Jeff and I will touch base in September, and if not before. And then for those of you who see this now or later, hopefully everything's going to be linked. I will go back and edit the description and pin comments so people can follow Jeff's YouTube channel.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Shout out Ruckus too. Shout out everyone from USDC Season 1, all the people behind the scenes and the people on camera.
Yep.
And of course Season 2 too, which we look forward to in September.
Yeah, can't wait.
Exactly.